Yo, what's good everybody? Recently today, Anime Vanguards has officially announced their 10 million Robux PvP tournaments, and I thought right now could be a perfect time for me to give y'all my personal tips and tricks, everything y'all need to know and prepare for once PvP officially drops. So if y'all do enjoy this video, and if y'all are very excited for PvP as I am, please make sure to like, subscribe, and join my Discord down in the description, because once I hit 4,000 subscribers, I'm going to be doing some battle pass giveaways inside my Discord server. So make sure y'all sub up and join my Discord, and let's stop the yapping and let's get into the video. Now, what is PvP? So in Anime Vanguards, PvP is going to be you versus someone else, and the goal is to make sure the other person loses to the enemies first. Now, you're going to have the enemy editor with you, and that's going to be your bread and butter of how you're going to be able to make your enemy lose, right? Overall goal is to make sure that your enemy is overwhelmed with what enemies you're placing down on them, what modifiers they're going to have. You're going to want to see what units they have and they've placed down with what traits, see how you can make them feel powerless to a certain extent, and overall build a really big push. That's the end goal with PvP. You want to build a really good push at the end once you have enough money, and just go all out, and again, just overwhelm the opponent and you win like that. That's the goal. However, it's much harder than it actually sounds, because in Anime Vanguard specifically, passives are huge, and in PvP it's even bigger, because damage stat in PvP literally is like 5% of what PvP is about, because having a specific status effect, having a specific passive, having a specific element comes a long way in PvP because of how many modifiers that they have in the game. Now, I'm gonna have some PvP background footage so that y'all are watching what I'm going through. Again, 90% of the time, or no, 100% of the time, it's gonna be me getting cooked, but still, I hope it gives y'all a bit of an idea of how PvP is gonna work. And a developer has also confirmed that the PvP that y'all are seeing right now in the video is nowhere near what it's going to be looking like when it's actually released. They said that the premise of like how to win and how to lose is the same, but a lot of the balancing and stuff is gonna be very different compared to this that you're all watching right now, and compared to what's gonna be added when they actually release it in update 6. So I just want to give an FYI for y'all. Just keep that in mind while y'all watching this video. But in general, there's a lot of things to talk about, a lot of things to really know when y'all are diving into PvP. Now, what do you need to know? First of all, just a couple things. Enemy editor, again, like I said earlier in the video, that is going to be your bread and butter. That is going to be how you win the game. You have to really be good with how you use the enemy editor. That is literally your make and break. If you do one wrong move, you're done. If you do one right move, you might win the game. That's how important it is. So y'all have to know in the background footage, if y'all have to pause, look at what's in the enemy editor, look at what modifiers there are, because the modifiers, again, are very important, because that is literally how you win the game and how you lose the game. Modifiers are very important, and it's really nice that they added a little checkbox on the side of each modifier, because I think if you click and hold it, I was having trouble figuring out until after I asked. You're supposed to click and hold the question mark, and then it tells you what each of those modifiers does. It's going to make PvP much easier to understand for newer players, especially for someone like me. I've played PvP, but I have no clue what 80% of the modifiers do, so that's going to be a big help. But you really want to get good with what modifiers are good against specific units. Again, you really want to keep checking the opponent. You want to see what units they're bringing. You want to see what units they have, what upgrades they're at, where they're placing them, how they're using them, etc. Again, it's a very big brain game. It's literally like chess. Like, you have to be 2 steps ahead of the opponent at all times to be able to win. It might sound like a chore to play, but trust me, once y'all play it, and once y'all play it a couple times, you're gonna see it's a lot more fun than it is like stressful. You know, right now it just seems stressful. I would think, you know, if I was in someone's position right now and they haven't played PvP and they're saying, yo, you gotta know like 15 different things, it will be like, whoa, what is this? But trust me, once you play it, it will be much more fun than I'm explaining it right now to be. Yeah, keep that in mind. Now, some examples of how you can lose. Again, in the video that y'all are watching, you're gonna see how I lose, but one of the examples, I'm gonna give a simple one first, is regeneration. And one of the games that I played with the developers that I don't think I recorded was I lost since I didn't have any bleed units or any rupture units. He went ahead and saw my units, and he saw, whoa, he doesn't have no bleed, no rupture, no nothing. I'm gonna just spam the regeneration to the point where no matter how many monarchs I had, no matter how much DPS I had, I couldn't out DPS the regeneration, and I literally could have just won that whole fight if I had a regen, but I didn't, so I just lost. That's one example. Another example, which is I think something that a lot of people might like, is the fact that monarch is not always going to be the #1 thing in PvP because of this one modifier called mind control. If you have monarch and mind control is there, that's your biggest off, because mind control takes your unit with the highest damage stat and reverts it into a boss and takes away your unit until you defeat the boss. I'm pretty sure I have died multiple times because I brought 4 monarchs with 2 farms, and the developer did 4 mind controls when I had all my units maxed out, and I got cooked. I couldn't place any units besides my farm units. That's another way you could lose. And another one I think is called resilience. This is the one in this video that you're all watching, how I'm gonna lose. Resilience basically means that if the enemy is getting stunned, then I don't think any damage is afflicted to them. So at the end, I died to a resilience enemy, and I was really confused on like how I was doing so much damage, but their health bar just wasn't going down. So again, you really want to know the ins and outs of every single unit, what their passives are like, their elements, everything, their damage stat, how they work, as well as how each and every modifier works, how you can combo specific ones together, again, to make a really massive push. So now, the best units to bring for PvP, I think this is the thing that a lot of y'all want to hear. The first one is going to be Vegito. Vegito is probably the best unit to bring because Vegeta and Goku are kind of meh for PvP. They're good because they stun and slow, but besides that, they don't have much else to them in terms of that. Vegito though has so much to him. He has damage reduction, he has rupture, he has a counter attack, so he basically never gets stunned unless it's obviously like a card stun, like explosion or something like that. He avoids dodge chance. He has so many internal mechanics to him that would most of the time be through card modifiers or familiars themselves. He comes in so clutch when it comes to PvP because a lot of the modifiers don't work against Vegito. Another really good unit to bring. So he's a really good unit to bring. Another one is Sid. Now, why Sid? One thing I don't see, now one of the reasons why people don't like Sid and really underestimate him is because his damage stat is really low, quote unquote, but realistically his damage output is a lot stronger and a lot more than one might think, and that is going to come very handy in PvP. So for example, if you have a Monarch Sid at upgrade 0, it might seem like he's not doing a lot of damage, but for example, John Smith, he's doing 40% more damage to enemies that are more than his damage stat, so he's basically always going to be doing 40% more damage. He's going to be stacking 5% damage on an enemy multiple times, and there's no cap to that, so again, even more damage. And then for Shadow, he does damage based on percentage HP, which again, a lot more damage than it actually shows, and that comes in very handy when it comes to mind control because you're going to be doing a lot of damage. However, the damage stat is based off of the amount of HP that the mind control boss has. So a unit like Sid, who doesn't realistically have a lot of damage stat, but his damage output is a lot more, the mind control boss is not going to be as tanky if he takes Sid. So you got to keep that in mind with units like that. Another example is Virgil. A lot of his damage comes from his clones and his follow-ups. His actual damage isn't much, but his passives give him so much extra DPS that a mind control boss would suck, but it wouldn't be as bad as seeing like a unit like Gogeta, for example, where his damage stat is all he has and it's that high, and that's that, right? So again, that's another unit to keep in mind. Another unit that's really good to bring is Lucy. It really sucks for y'all who haven't grinded the battle pass in update 4 because Lucy is a very, very good unit because of her passive where she nullifies. That nullify passive will come in very handy for a lot of the modifiers, and it's very huge if y'all have Lucy. Trust me, as long as you just bring her, you place her down. I don't know how many modifiers she's able to nullify, but I know some of them are definitely nullifiable. I don't know if that's a word, but Lucy's another really good unit to bring. If y'all don't have her, that actually does kind of suck, but y'all can probably make do. But in general, out of all the units in the game, Lucy's definitely another one to bring. And another good unit to bring is stuns, cheap stuns, like Killua, for example. Killua is a 5 placement stun, really quick as well, ups a lot with Virgil as well, and you can spread him around everywhere, and it's just another really good way to stall. The main idea, in my opinion, for PvP is you want to stall as long as possible, get the most amount of money, and then just go all in for a big push. And if you have a 5 placement stun that attacks really quick and spread them all around the map, then that's going to be even better for stalling. So Killua, or just in general any other stun unit that's like cheap placement, like Sasuke, even really good 4 placement stun, I think 3 or 4 placement. You have Death as a freeze for Virgil as well, and again, even more stalling. So supports are definitely another really big thing. You want multiple placement supports, you want high damage output units but not a high damage stat. You want Vegito, you really want Vegito, trust me. And Sid is honestly like the second best unit to bring in my opinion. If you bring those two, you're really going to be set for a lot of the modifiers. So yeah, those are some of the units that I would 100% recommend bringing into PvP. Now, how to prepare, that's the last thing I want to talk about. If you're gonna be playing traded, I would 100% recommend getting some good burbs, the familiar and the Sid raid. Getting some really good burbs will come in very handy against some other people who just bring monarchs and high stats, because burb is literally a walking solar, deadeye, and ethereal. It's that good. So if you grind good burbs and get some good corruptions on them and put them on your units, they will come in very handy. Another thing is to grind all the units that I talked about in this video. Get them as good as possible. Trust me, they're very good. Even if you don't get monarch on them, just get some good stats. Again, having monarch isn't always the best thing because of mind control, but again, the thing about these units that I'm talking about, sorry if y'all hear the rain in the background, but the best part about these units is the fact that their damage stat isn't the highest, but their damage output is really high. So those units are really good with or without monarch, so just keep that in mind. and overall really just learn what each modifier does so that y'all are prepared to face any enemy, to face any opponent with any modifiers on their mobs, so that y'all are able to counteract that and win. So yeah, that's about it for this video. Hope this video did help y'all out in any sort of way, and I hope y'all are excited for PvP just as much as I am. And yeah, that's about it for the video. Hope y'all have a great day or night wherever you are, and I'm gonna see y'all in the next one. Peace.